Once upon a time there was a king. The king has a young son. According to the star and number 39's destiny, the prince will be gored to death by a deer when he turns 16 years old. When he reached adulthood, the prince once went into the forest with a group of hunters. In the forest, the prince saw a big deer and immediately raised his gun to shoot, but missed, so the prince kept chasing the deer. When he reached the forest gate, suddenly there was no more deer. Standing in front of the prince was a tall, lanky man. That person said, "Great, now I have caught you. I ran after you and lost 6 pairs of glass slippers but still could N&39 catch you." Then that person grabbed the prince, put him under his armpit, and carried him across a large lake to the front of the palace. The prince had to sit at the same table and eat a little with the other person. When the two had just finished eating, the king said, "I have 3 daughters. You must sit and watch over the eldest princess from 9:00 and number 39 clock until 6:00 and number 39 clock in the morning. I will personally come and see every time the bell rings. If I call you and you dawn and number 39 answer, you will be beheaded the next morning. But if you respond, I will marry you the princess." When the two went into the bedroom, the princess said to the statue of Christoph, "From 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., the king comes here once every hour. When the king asks a question, remember to answer for the prince." The stone statue of Christoph nodded, then slowly returned to an upright position. The next morning the king told the prince, "You did everything well. But I haven't and number 39 given you my daughter yet. Tonight you sit and watch over my second daughter princess. Then I will see if I should marry the eldest princess to you or not. I come myself, once every hour. If you answer immediately when you call, it and number 39 good, but if you call and there and number 39 no answer, your head will bleed." When the two entered the room, the princess told the statue of Christoph, "If the king calls, remember to answer." The stone statue of Christoph nodded, then slowly returned to an upright position. The prince lay in the doorway, put his head on his arm and fell asleep. The next morning, the king told the prince, "You have done everything well, but I have not yet married your daughter. From morning until night, you must cut down all the trees in my great forest. After cutting, only then will I consider marrying my daughter to you." Then the king gave the prince an axe to chop wood, a wedge, and a pickaxe, but all 3 were made of glass. Entering the forest, he used an axe to cut down a tree, and the axe broke in 2. He placed a wedge into the tree trunk and used a bird and number 39's hammer to pound it. Both the wedge and the hammer broke into pieces. He was very sad and thought that he probably wouldn't and 39 be able to escape death. He sat by the tree and cried. At noon, the king said, "One of you should bring rice to the boy cutting down trees in the forest." The 2 sisters said in unison, "We Dawn and number 39 want to bring food to that person." The youngest son had to bring food, because that person was watching over him last night. The youngest girl had to take rice into the forest for the tree cutters. When she got there, she asked him if he was okay. He replied, not feeling well. She advised him to eat to relieve his hunger. He said, he didn't and 39 want to eat, because he would have to die anyway. The princess used all her words to advise him, so he willingly ate. Then, the princess told him to let her massage him to relieve his fatigue. After she massaged him for a while, he fell asleep. Then she took off her scarf, tied it in a knot and hit the ground 3 times, saying, "Where is the lumberjack? Get out!" As soon as she finished speaking, many dwarves appeared from underground and gathered around to ask what she needed. She said, "Within 3 hours we must cut down this large forest and arrange the trees into piles." The dwarves ran everywhere calling for relatives to help. As soon as 30 and number 39 clock passed, the job was done. They came to tell the princess that the job was done. She waved her white scarf and said, "Lumberjack, quickly return home." In just a blink of an eye, everyone was gone from there. When the prince woke up, he was extremely happy. She told him, "When the bell rings 6 times, please return home." He did exactly as she said. When he arrived, the king asked, "Have you cut down all the forest yet?" The prince replied, "Your Majesty, the cutting has been completed." When everyone was sitting at the dining table, the king said, "I still cannot marry my daughter to you. You must do one more thing." He asked what it was. The king said, "I have a big lake. Tomorrow you must clean it up and make it look as bright as a mirror. There must be all kinds of fish in the lake." Early the next morning, the king gave him a glass shovel and said, "At 60 and number 39 clock everything must be done." He went to the lake and just as he put the shovel into the mud, the shovel broke. He used a hoe to pick through the mud, and the hoe also broke. He was very sad. At noon, the youngest princess brought him rice and asked him if he was tired. He said, "Things were going nowhere. Losing your head is certain." The princess said he should eat a little. After eating, he will change his mind. He said, he was so sad that he could N and hash 39 tea swallow. The princess tried her best to persuade him before he finally ate a little. The princess massaged him, and he fell asleep. She took the scarf and tied a knot, then hit the scarf on the ground 3 times and said, "Where is the worker? Come out quickly." Many dwarves appeared from underground and asked her what she needed. She told them what to do. The dwarves called friends and relatives to help. Just 2 hours later everything was done. The dwarves ran to the princess and said, "What the princess ordered, we have done." The princess took the towel and hit it on the ground 3 times and said, "Where is the worker? Come home quickly." So in the blink of an eye, everyone left that place. When the prince woke up, the lake had already been cleaned. Before leaving, the princess told him to go home at 60 and number 39 clock. When he arrived, the king asked. The prince replied, "The lake has been cleaned." When everyone was sitting around the table, the king said, "You have finished cleaning the lake, but I have not allowed the wedding yet. You must do one more thing." The prince asked, "What is the matter?" The king said, "I have a big mountain full of big thorns. You should cut them all down, then build a magnificent castle on the mountain that everyone will admire. The castle must have all the necessary items." The next morning, when he woke up, the king gave him an axe and a drill, both made of glass, and the king said, "At 60 and number 39 clock everything must be done." He swung his axe to cut down the first thorn bush and the axe broke into pieces and scattered, and the drill also broke in half. He was sad and could only wait for his lover to help him. Around noon, the youngest princess brought food. He ran out to meet her and told her everything and had a bite to eat. The princess massaged him, and he fell asleep. The princess took the knotted scarf, hid it on the ground and said, "Where is the worker? Come out quickly." Immediately the dwarf appeared from the ground and asked what the princess needed. She said, "After 3 hours, we must cut down all the thorn bushes and build a magnificent castle." The dwarves ran to call their friends and relatives to help. When the deadline expires, everything is done. The dwarves came to tell the princess that everything was done. The princess took the towel, hid it on the ground and said, "Where is the worker? Go home quickly." As soon as the princess finished speaking, all the dwarves left that place. When the prince woke up and saw the magnificent castle, his heart was filled with joy as if he were flying in the air like a bird. When the clock struck 6, the two went home together. The king asked, "Has the castle been built yet?" The prince replied, "Sir, the construction has been completed." When everyone sat at the dining table, the king said, "I will only marry my youngest daughter to you, when the two sisters are married." Hearing that, the prince and youngest princess were very sad. The prince did not know any other way, but that night he and the youngest princess fled. After walking some distance, the youngest princess turned around and saw the king chasing her. She cried out, "Oh, what should we do now? I will turn you into a thorn bush, and I will turn you into a rose in the middle of that thorn bush." When the king arrived, he saw a rose bush with thorns. In the middle of the bush was a rose. The king was about to pick the rose, but the thorn pricked his finger, so he had to return. The queen asked why the king didn't and #39 bring them back. The king said he only saw the thorn bush and the rose. The queen said, "Your Majesty, as long as you pick the rose, the thorn bush will follow." The king set out again to pick roses. But both have come quite far. The king followed closely after them. The princess looked back and saw the king. The princess said, "Oh, what should we do now? You turned me into a church and turned me into a missionary standing on the pulpit." When the king arrived, he only saw a church with a priest preaching. The king also came to preach. After listening, the king went back to the palace and told the queen everything. The queen said, "Your Majesty only needs to take the priest back and the church will also return. Perhaps you shouldn't and #39 ask your Majesty to go. The best way is to do it yourself." After a while, the queen walked and saw two people in the distance. The princess looked back and saw her mother chasing her, so she said, "Oh my God, now the queen herself is chasing. I will turn you into a lake and me into a fish." When the queen arrived, she saw a large lake. In the middle of the lake was a fish swimming happily, its head sticking out of the water. The queen was so angry that she drank the lake in one gulp and tried to catch fish. But the lake water in her stomach made the queen so dizzy that she vomited all the water. The queen said, "It seems that nothing can be done." And the queen gave the princess 3 pecans and said, "These pecans can help you in difficult times." The prince and princess continued their journey. After 10 hours of traveling, they reached the other village, where the prince and #39's castle was located. The prince said, "Dear, please wait here. I went into the palace and sent someone to take a carriage to welcome you in." When the prince appeared in the palace, everyone was extremely happy. The prince told everyone that he had a fiancée, and she was waiting outside the village. Please send people and cars to welcome her in. The servants in the palace immediately prepared cars to welcome him. When the prince was about to get into the carriage, the queen kissed his forehead, making the prince forget what he was about to do. Then the queen ordered the horses to be unbridled and everyone returned to their places. The girl waited at the beginning of the village and kept waiting for the prince to come out to greet her, but she waited but could not see him. She had to stay in the windmill area of the palace. Every day she had to sit by the stream to wash her clothes. Once the queen left the castle and walked along the stream. The queen saw the slender girl sitting by the stream and said, "You look so slender and lovely." Hearing the queen and number 39's praise, everyone turned to look at the girl, but no one could spot the princess. The princess had to help the miller for a while. Meanwhile, the queen found a wife for the prince in that far-away country. When the bride arrives, the wedding ceremony is held immediately. People flocked to see the wedding. The girl who helped the miller also asked to go and see. He said, "Go ahead." Before leaving, the girl pecked a pecan nut. "There is a beautiful outfit in there." She wore that beautiful outfit to go to church. She walked closer to the altar. The bride and groom entered and approached the altar. When the pastor sprinkled them with holy water, the bride looked up and saw the girl. The bride said she would only come to the wedding if she had a wedding outfit as beautiful as the other girl and number 39's. Then the two went home and asked the girl if she was selling that beautiful outfit. The girl answered no, but was willing to give that beautiful outfit to the bride on the condition that she could sleep in front of the prince and number 39's room. The bride agreed to that condition. The servants gave the prince sleeping pills and the girl slept right in front of the room door. She told and cried how she cut down the entire forest for the prince, how she drained the lake, turned him into a thorn bush, then into a cathedral, but now he has forgotten those things. The prince was fast asleep, so he didn't and #39's know anything, but the servants were awake so they heard all the girl and number 39's cries, but they didn't and #39's understand why it was like that. The next morning, the bride dressed in a beautiful outfit and the prince drove to the church. Meanwhile, the girl opened the second pecan nut, and inside there was an outfit even more beautiful than the outfit the day before. She put on a beautiful outfit and went to church. She walked closer to the altar. And everything happened again like last time. At night, the girl slept right in front of the prince and number 39's room. The servant forgot to put sleeping pills in the water, so the prince went to bed but did not fall asleep. He heard the girl and number 39's cries. He was very sad and suddenly remembered everything from the past. He intended to go out to meet the girl, but the queen had locked the door. The next morning, he went to the windmill to meet the girl and told her what had happened to him and hoped she would not relent. Because of that, the girl opened the third walnut, and inside it was a beautiful outfit. She dressed, then rode with the prince to church. A large number of children and people gathered to watch the wedding. They gave flowers to the bride and groom. The wedding was held with great joy. The queen and bride did not dare to show their faces at the wedding ceremony. You see, people have just finished telling the story. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.